This is going to be a complicated video to discuss, but despite the information I've witnessed from Shawn S, who went through so much trouble over the last couple of years when it comes to a predator that he got enabled, but in reality, due to Lyle Convoy and Hopeless Peaches being exposed for the stuff that they did were way worse than what Shawn did, there's a reason onto why that this video exists, because I really need to be honest with you guys that I don't really enjoy any of this type of drama when it comes to child predators and Leo Convoy, because Leo Convoy, I've known him since I've seen more child predators in online when it comes to the information of them at BoyCon, mainly the Grizzly, the Medic situation, of course, Toon Critic Y2K in 2018. Basically, those types of people that got me into YouTubers like Lyle Convoy, and over the next few years, I've seen him, along with For No Good Reason, tackling basically the child predators who prey on children, and as of late, when it comes to them, For No Good Reason, Anthony and Coyote Lovely, they're no longer predator hunters, with Lyle being the only one standing strong. But since this year began, and with more information coming out, it seems that all that has changed. The him that we all remember is no longer a true thing whatsoever, due to the true colors that we've seen from him. Now, before I get into Shawn's information, I need to talk about Lyle Convoy and the examples onto why that this video exists. This is mostly a two subject video, considering that Shawn S and Lyle Convoy talked with each other earlier this year, but at the same time, this is also, well, I see how Lyle Convoy is that bad, because one of the people that I've seen who stand up to Lyle Convoy is Zade, who I've heard from people shouldn't be trusted due to how he takes things a little too far when it comes to him saying the N-word so many times, even though that's beyond the case because he's black, along with the fact that he is taking things out of context at some points, but at the same time, Zay wanted to have a normal debate with Lyle Convoy without the Senate. He wanted to talk to him normally and trying to set things straight when it comes to how Lyle Convoy is lying about Zay, and for how Zay made a nearly 3-hour video centering around Lyle Convoy. I'm pretty sure that despite Zay not being 100% perfect and does have problems, I'm mostly siding with him than Lyle Convoy. The thing is that even though that in some occasions, while I watch the Will Thomas's latest video centering around Zay and how Zay views Rosalie Ramsey as the victim, despite the fact that Rosalie Ramsey kept a child predator in not Rebecca Sugar's, the Starlight Giant Productions server for about 8 months. It's really undefendable to do that with Rosalie Ramsey, and as much as I understand that the Will Thomas is just trying to let out his point of view since that he made a video of Star Giant Productions, at the same time, with the information centering around Lyle Convoy, it shows that he hasn't been the same, to the point that he is ignoring everyone and making up lies. Mainly in one of the videos that people have been calling him out. And it just makes most of his points in the past difficult to take legitimately. Like, when Misanthropony was exposed for stalking Cartoonchi 2 years ago, Leo Convoy confronted him, and when it comes to Misanthropony returning, he ends up doing the same thing towards different people when it comes to sending death threats. And believe me, this is where I think that Zade Magenta was being enabled by Leo Convoy, which is saying a lot of how the relationship had came to an end. Because they did a charity of some sort on trying to get Mintheart out of her abusive home. I know I pronounced it wrong. She could be a he, but I'll just call it them or they. They got them out of their abusive household in order to have them be their adopted father. Yeah. Misanthropony and Leo Convoy became Mintheart's adopted father. And Leo Convoy has multiple adopted fathers due to his accomplishments in late 2010. But this is where we actually see the dark side of him. Well, outside of the internet, he's actually worse, to the point that Shawn doesn't do any of this stuff in real life, and if he actually did, then I'm pretty sure his anxiety will go over the limit for how he can't be able to cooperate himself due to poor impulse control, which is in the same way as Misanthropony / Zade Magenta, but not on the same level. The video that I saw weeks ago was third child interview from Kumo's channel, and I watched it from beginning to end, and I'm honestly surprised that Leo has been exposed due to these terrible actions, and the fact that there's going to be more people coming out when it comes to the rest of Leo's adopted children. He's no longer going to be the victim or the moral grandstand of all moral grandstands, because every time I've seen Leo talk about moral values, it really irked me, to the point that it's one thing to make sure you don't do anything like this again, unless if it's really severe, but the problem is that all of the calls and videos that I've seen involving Leo Convoy against other people who he defended people like Zade and others, they're difficult to take his words legitimately for how all this is in full view of his true self. Trust me, this is the type of stuff that really makes me feel like that whenever I think about Leo Convoy, he is no longer the person that I'm supposed to see as a role model, but at the same time, it just makes it it just sums up that he's just doing this to be right, and it sums up everything onto why I will never be in the Senate server. Since I've been using Discord, despite deleting my Discord server with people kept leaving while trying to get more, I don't want to get into drama situations when it comes to Leo Convoy, because the only time I actually talked to Leo Convoy was earlier in 2022, while I reported his comment on my video of one of my Zade Magenta's videos. The reason why I reported it is because even though that he was just being truthful and being in the right when it comes to looking into the point of view of others who aren't better than him, I still do not condone the behavior of bullying, because for how I view him, for how he comments and how he just replied back to me that, do you want me to be in the same lane as me? Because if you ask me, whenever he says that, it kind of shows to me that he is willing to push people down if they don't agree with his point of view completely. Because when he brings up moral values, in occasions he is right, mainly Rosalie Ramsey, along with the child predators. But the thing is, he didn't report the child predators whatsoever while trying to protect the kids. And in almost every Senate recording that he did, he always have people to be in a massive shield against some individuals who don't deserve it the most, which is Shawn S, which I'm gonna get to really soon. The thing is that Lyle really went over the line when it comes to favoring hopeless peaches who've done so much, who've have been exposed for doing terrible things, which made me think that the dynamic between Leo Convoy and Hopeless Peaches isn't really convincing me anymore, judging of how that they bullied Rosalie Ramsey to the point of just viewing the Senate call that they had involving Rosa really, really poorly handled and really unprofessional. Because the thing is, I never knew about this whole child predator thing when it came to the victims in Feel. And that's mainly the fact that when you literally just put those types of elements higher on a pedestal in comparison to getting bullied while separating the two, it would just instantly make the whole situation of the whole child molesting situations difficult to believe. Because if I was in this position, I wouldn't take the child predator situation seriously, because it would just make me more confused and not understanding the point of view of the victims. I wouldn't do anything of what Rosalie Ramsey did, especially of how Rebecca Starlight instantly kept Necropon in the sofa for 8 months. But let me tell you that whenever I look at these types of informations and it just becomes a struggle for me to process, I mostly relate to Shawn S, who has a long time of processing on the situation, because he went through a situation involving Dan, who is also a child predator. But even with the information I've witnessed when it comes to Doodle Tone's 2 videos centering around Shawn and Sonic World, I don't condone Sonic World completely, but when it comes to Shawn, I'm gonna be honest with you. Even if he's an adult that he should have known better, at the same time, that doesn't automatically mean that he's gonna be like an adult. He's gonna be like Leo Convoy when it comes to being brave as an adult. Because if you ask me, he's not qualified to be a father. Nor am I. And for the situation that he went through involving the Dan situation, I'm gonna be honest with you, is that despite the mistakes and decisions that he made while being enabled by Dan, people can agree that he isn't a jerk, unlike Lyle Convoy. Because what makes it important is because I had PM him, mainly discussing him privately on Discord, and he gave me information on his experiences with Lyle Convoy and Doodle Tone's 2 videos of him. Because believe me, whenever I did saw bits and pieces of Lyle Convoy talking to Shawn, and from the way it seems is that Shawn can't be able to process completely, and he was honestly scared when Lyle was talking to him. Let me tell you that I wanted to believe the victims on how they were harmed when it comes to Dan's actions, but at the same time, I can't really go against Shawn for how he's struggling, because his own reasonings on leaving the server and doing multiple things that has nothing to do with the child's, who have nothing to do with the minors getting preyed on, doesn't automatically mean that I view him as a bad person completely. Because if you really think that twisting someone else's words that Leo did to Shawn would instantly make him learn from his mistakes and actually understand that he should be gone, then no. I'm not a friend of Shawn, but at the same time, I'm mutuals with him since he commented on one of my videos and I commented on one of his. You don't even understand that it's strike a nerve with him. When he got removed and banned by multiple people when it comes to Lyle's course of actions, then that really shows that Lyle was taking full control of the situation, despite the fact that the real history behind him exposes of who he really is. And some of the informations that he gave to Shawn were helpful since that Shawn admitted to it, but at the same time, Shawn just isn't like any other person when it comes to talking to other people by stopping the child predator, because I think that the problem that Shawn has is that he has a difficult time communicating with other people, and from the way I see it when it comes to him messaging me about his point of view, it really feels like that he just can't be able to process everything while also having a proper communication, because Doodle's tunes, despite being mad and disappointed at Shawn S, took it much more well since that she describes moral values a lot more better than Leo Convoy. Which is really saying something, considering that every time I hear Leo Convoy expresses moral values, it really feels like that most of the time he's making it all up. And when I've seen other people who Zade attacked, mainly sending death threats to, they express that it doesn't make any sense and how they should view people's moral values as the main priority of viewing a person in order to value them as a friend, which is important, but at the same time, that's asking for too much, because Leo Convoy was cutting off Shawn multiple times and twisting his words every time, to the point that it sums up a lot that if he really wanted to become a better example, you really think that you should express the situation with Shawn as well, because he deserves to be in a debate or a discussion in order to have his point of view on the situation. And he did when he made his document of Hazel Zone 504, which is a different person of damn, but at the same time, it really sums up that he had a difficult time expressing it, so he made a 224 document on his experiences. I'm gonna have it link into the video, but believe me, I really feel like that this type of information sums up that Shawn just has a difficult time communicating with people. And when he had the call with Doodle Tones, it eased a lot of his worries. And believe me, if you really think of how he's having a difficult time speaking, it kind of sums up that he's afraid of speaking out 100%, which is difficult for him to actually process on the current state that he is in now. And with everyone blocking him, even though he may deserve it, at the same time, he shouldn't permanently deserve it, because Leo Convoy addressed that, and that sums up of how he's willing to push someone down over their ability to, over their own abilities to function that are different than his. I just feel like that Shawn S, despite himself being called out, I can't really go against him entirely. And at the same time, I'm not against the victims at all. The thing is that I have to look at multiple sides, because whenever I think about these types of situations when it comes to Leo being part of it, this just sums it up. One of the people in Shawn S.'s sofa stated they act like if you make one mistake, even though that Shawn S. may made multiple mistakes, they will drag you over it. They will drag you over for it. That's why I refuse to take who offer to debate. They will always try to make us look like the bad guy and find things against us to suit their narratives. It's not a place for debate or to reason with. It's a place for moral shaming. When you moral shame someone this hard when they didn't do as bad as Rosalie Ramsey, then I don't even think it's going to help them improve as a person outside of the internet by touching grass. Because when people just say you have to touch grass and cope, it's pathetic. It really is pathetic and idiotic. Also, Leo shouldn't be talking, given that he has had scumbags like Coyote Lovely, Dip Rose, Spectre, Joshua, Vita, and FNGR. Crazy Kate also pointed out how Lyle isn't a reliable person. Crazy Kate was the person that I referred to, and the person that he got stalked and got threatened by Misanthropoid when it comes to death threats. This is one of the reasons onto why that, despite Shawn S. making mistakes that is somewhat unexcusable by some people, I can't even see him as the bad guy for how Leo Convoy just suits his own narratives, and it just makes me really difficult to process in the same ways as Shawn S. Because even if I'm not friends with the guy, I'm mutuals with, and I can instantly relate to how he's been venting up with so much emotions that he's been bottling up. Like, if he has anxiety, and when people just say that isn't an excuse, people just do not understand the pressure that he's going through with the multiple years that this has been going on. He is younger than me. He was born in 2001, and for how he's just processing and improving on the situation as of late, I really feel like that people were taking Lyle Convoy's information way too literal, to the point that they never gave Shawn S a chance. Because I'm pretty sure that if anyone had anxiety, despite the decisions that they make, they're gonna have a difficult time process on what they should do and what they should prevent on doing. Because if it's not going to be a healthier professional debate or discussion, then it would just make the whole predatory situation difficult to believe in, and not really a good way to see the importance of child endangerment. Because Shawn S, despite putting children in danger, he didn't mean to. And the fact that Lyle, who didn't report any child predators and completely is trash towards his adopted children in real life, that some of them were living at his house, really sums up a lot that he's a lot more worse than Shawn S. Because believe me, every time I remember the angle from Lyle, it really makes me feel like that he is hiding something when he uses moral values as a shield, just like Hopeless Peaches. And the fact that he favors Hopeless Peaches over his adopted children, I really feel like that he's only using the predatory hunter thing as a shield in order to make him better than everyone else. And the sad thing is that Anthony, who is, for no good reason, did the same thing, even though that he was trying to expose someone who endangered a child, which, for me personally, all because he got his feelings hurt. And it took him months until late 2020 for him to actually get exposed by someone who put his foot down. If you ask me, those types of behaviors from people who were once predatory, who were once predator hunters, then I think it really shows a lot of who Leo is, and the fact that people have been discussing, you really deserve a vacation, you really deserve a vacation. Honestly, just ignoring the fact that a vacation wouldn't even work out completely to ease all the pain, do you really think that Lyle would take that advice? I'm pretty sure that he only appreciates those types of comments from people who side with him. Because this is similar to Misanthropoly's audiences when it comes to him using his audience as to have them see his point of view on things, which sums up a lot that Misanthropoly has becoming a lot more different than how he was in October 2023, even though that he doesn't deserve to be redeemed. He completely took Lyle's advice, and the fact that he uses the same wording as Lyle is because I don't like Star Wars because it creates people like you. If he did that to any other person who isn't like Walter Ramsey, then I'm pretty sure that he would have lost. And with how he was rigging the system with Leo Convoy and the other people, it sums up a lot that their demise is going to come eventually. And it really makes me feel like that every time that I've seen these types of informations, then I'm starting to convince that this is all just a play to make Leo Convoy more and more and more terrible in comparison to Shawn S. You want to know how difficult it is to actually process on the experiences of understanding the feel of a child getting harmed? It's mainly of how they suit their own narrative. It's mainly how Lyle suit their own narratives and just expects us to run along with it. And even though that he did stop people from getting harmed by actual child predators and victims who don't really deserve it, believe me, I can't be able to look at that information the same way due to the events of coming out involving Leo Convoy that turned out to be worse than Shawn S. And I just feel like that every time that Shawn S tries to defend himself and tries to express his side of things, I'm pretty sure that he just, despite being an adult, that doesn't automatically mean that he needs to be brave like an adult. Because I don't think that Shawn S is brave because he just doesn't want to mess with Lyle. Which sums up a lot that he can't be able to process everything, which is, in some point of view, I defend him when it comes to his anxiety. Even though I can't defend him 100% when it comes to the children that he didn't mean to put in danger, but as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the Sonic Wart situation that he ends up becoming much more worse, I'm going to assume that Shawn S just has a difficult time on relying people who are just easier to manipulate him by enabling him. That's just basically my perspective on the whole situation. Obviously, it's one thing if you would say that Shawn S should at least take accountability, which, yes, he should, but if you ask me, he doesn't deserve to leave the internet nor get banned by multiple people from Discord servers and elsewhere, because he should at least get a chance. And even though that the victims won't accept his apology, he's going to try to prove himself that he can improve, because I'm pretty sure that he's going to improve way more better than Miss Anthroponi, who has been given too many chances. If a person gets way too many chances, and it's from someone who he was getting enabled with that is revealed to be much more worse when it comes to how he handles his children, then you know they're much more worse than Shawn S. Let me tell you that the entire purpose of this video is just a showcase on how Leo Convoy's true colors have damaged the reputation that he has. And when it comes to Shawn S, his reputation is ruined, but at the same time, it's not the end for him. I really wanted to make it clear that I just feel like that when I witness the information involving Shawn S, then I'm starting to convince that he isn't as bad as what Lyle describes him. Trust me when I say this, is that the video centering around him from Doodle Tones, I really feel like that he was struggling and people are just siding with Lyle way too much, and this was before Lyle got exposed. So I just feel like that Shawn S might improve in some of the capacity, even if it's going to take a while. Because to tell you the truth, the dramas that I've seen involving so many people, no matter where I go, it's always leading to so many problematics that really took me time to understand. But at the same time, I'm struggling because I've witnessed the Jawad situation late last year, the Emil situation, aka Sugar Convoy, earlier this year, who is still inactive on the internet, taking a break off of the internet in order to improve. And to tell you the truth, with those types of informations of everything around the two, the Jawad situation, I totally understand about the charity fraud situation. But when it comes to the Emil situation, when it comes to the roleplay that he did back in 2010, I still can't be able to process that, because for how it just came and it just made the whole situation worse rather than seeing who Sugar Convoy really is. Like, let me just say this, that it's impossible, like really impossible to process so many things, and then when it comes to a point where it just gets worse, then those are breaking points that people can't control, no acceptable, but it happens when they just can't take it anymore. And believe me, it just shows to me that Shawn S is really at a breaking point during his whole situation with Dan. And even though that he's going to stay distanced from Dan, believe me, he's not irredeemable. And in his situation, it's not that complicated, but that's mainly his own perspective that it's too complicated. I'm just saying that it's not on the same levels as the Sugar Convoy situation, since that we need to wait for Emil to come back on more about the information. The point is that I'm just too exhausted, and I've seen so many situations centering around the topic, and then when I come to this, Shawn S.'s situation is not as severe as the other situations, and he doesn't deserve to leave, and he at least deserves another chance. Granted, it's going to be difficult for him to prove to him that he has improved, but believe me, I'm so exhausted. Like, really, really exhausted. And I really, really want to make sure that this whole situation of Zade and Leo Convoy gets more exposed for the stuff that he did along with Hopeless Peaches, and the fact that with more of his adopted children coming out, his viewpoint on Shawn S will show that he is really becoming more manipulative, and a lot more toxic. Because if there's one thing that I just couldn't stand about the whole moral values thing is the fact that bullying is justified, which in all honestly wasn't really the case, and putting it on a higher pedestal, and putting it as a normal position in comparison to having kids being preyed on by child predators is justified, but to people like Shawn S, I'm not. It just isn't. It never made me convinced otherwise. The only thing they could give you is just read his document, despite being 200 plus pages long, because if he can actually do this, then to prove a point, then I'm pretty sure that you would probably have a different point of view on him, because that just sums up of how I would give him another chance despite being mutuals. With that being said, this video has gone on long enough, but I really need to make it, and even though it's not 100% structured on what people may think, but believe me, I really am overwhelmed, and I just want to avoid drama. If anyone's wanting me to debate it in a call, I'm not. I'm sorry, but Leo Convoy is the last person I want to be in the call with, especially with his former friends and the people at the Senate, because it sums up of how the Senate is extremely toxic. And when it comes to doodle tones, it's the closest I can have a conversation with, but at the same time, it would probably be in the same position on who is right and who is wrong, all the while just understanding the point of view of others, which isn't going to help the call whatsoever. And I'm not really the type of person who is in calls on Discord. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.